In us right now is Mike from around the world.
Pastor Paul, God bless you this evening.
God bless you, Mike. Good to hear from you again tonight. I hope you're safe wherever you are. I mean, down here in Florida, we have been having some really bad weather, hailstones, tornadoes, you name it.
Yeah, I got some bad news for regarding the weather coming up shortly. I mean, we can begin with that, but we don't have to. It's a doozy.
Well, we better. I mean, you just.
Well, we had a conversation on your
Okay.
show, right,
Okay. Yes. Yes.
about the heating of the oceans.
Yes.
Well, wouldn't you know it? Just about 3, 4, 5 hours ago, they have a headline: Earth is in hot water. Worries over sudden ocean warming spike.
Whoa. Whoa. Okay. Now, is this the beginning of disclosure of what's happening here under the
I
earth?
don't think they can actually disclose that. I don't believe that's an option. I really don't. It's worse than what it seems to be.
So what are they saying then, Mike? That the temperature of the oceans are heating up?
Well, it's a sudden spike, and they said this month coming up. Well, actually, April and May are shattering records. So we have severe changes. And the ocean temperatures are going to drive two elements: the wind and storms. And of course, as we have more storms, hail, the size of hail is going to increase.
Yeah.
We're talking about a big increase. We're not talking about, 10-mile-an-hour wind speeds. We're talking about a pretty significant increase in winds. Our infrastructure can't take too much moisture either. They had a survey that was done. Most of the infrastructure in most of the parts of the USA are at stress points of breaking, meaning the water is taking its toll, right? So the more water we get, the more destabilized the surface of the crust gets. That means the footers of houses and buildings are going to start to give way. They already have entire buildings within cities that the basements and underneath the basements, they have already given way. So there's a lot happening. When the heat comes with that rain, it's going to double the trouble.
I'm looking right here at a report, as you just said. Rising ocean temperatures are driving unprecedented changes in global marine ecosystems, sea levels, and weather patterns. As the heat transforms the ocean, threats to food supplies, economies, weather multiplying, putting humans and the environment health at risk. So
Yeah, and that's one. That's one. If people would look up this keyword "earth and hot water," they'll find that article. It just came out just a little bit ago, but what they're discussing is this: scientists are kind of stumped at some of the rises. Well, they say this publicly; they know exactly what it is, and the numbers are a bit degraded, of course, for public consumption. But the oceans are driving a huge problem. A huge problem.
All right, I found your article here. Earth and hot water worries over sudden ocean warming spike. The world's oceans have suddenly spiked much hotter and are well above record levels in the last few weeks, with scientists trying to figure out what it means and whether the forecast a surge in atmospheric warming. Some researchers think the jump in the sea surface temperatures stems from the brewing and possibly strong natural El Nino warming weather conditions, plus a rebound from 3 years of cooling La Nina. But that's not what it is it, Mike?
No, they have, of course, they're going to print what they print to support global warming, to gather money.
Right.
It's going to be political. And NOAA, of course, is going to print anything that will keep that agency validity going. But the truth is, we have an unprecedented amount of volcanoes erupting in the oceans.
Yep.
We have underwater war activity, I guess you could say, which is not helping the matter. We have a condensed atmospheric issue that we continue to have. The sun is about to go into a new phase, a brand new phase. It's going to be highly unpredictable. And of course, all these external things out there, beyond our solar system, they're putting they're introducing a lot of particulates. into our solar system. So
Did
things
they?
are changing rapidly.
Yeah, I mean, and let's talk about this binary system, okay? Planet X, and I promised people we would ask you about an update on that. I did see the um, the solar eclipse we just had. That they were hoping that when that solar eclipse happened, that they would be able to see this binary system coming up the backside and maybe see it over on the edges of the sun with the naked eye, but they couldn't see with the naked eye. But I was going to ask you, did we look at it with the infrared? Did we get a look at this thing, and what did we see?
Well, if something was out there, they can always see it. The problem with the eclipse is that we're at the wrong angle, so we wouldn't have got a clear look at it based on the position of Earth and the sun. That's how we would see it with an eclipse. Of course, it would block all that light out and show a pretty lit object behind there. But we're at the wrong angle. Give it about 3 or 4 months. If that happens again, which it likely will, then people may get a good visual of that. Plus, the time of day is a big factor. But if they don't get to see it, that's not a problem, because we're about to have some new phases introduced into our weather patterns, right?
Yeah.
We're going to have to deal with the high winds. With the high winds comes a dryness, comes very different types of storms, and some of the particulates that are now settling in the atmosphere are going to hit their fall point, which means once they build up to a specific point, they begin to fall to Earth. And once they fall to Earth, that's going to be a bigger driver. As the density of the upper atmospheres increases, aircraft are going to be forced to lower and lower altitudes. They already have St. Elmo's fire, right, that they have to go through due to friction and other things. If that increases, well, they're going to, lots of things will change. Here's the bad part. It's going to happen so quick. And we're going to have very little indication that things are about to overtake us. It's going to happen very quick. Any binary system, the closer they get together, right, they arc. Inertia increases, speed doubles. So it's almost an exponential speed increase from that binary star coming into our star. Now, our star moves also, right? So at a certain point, both start moving towards each other. Right? At that point, things will be moving so fast in space that the constellations are going to be wrong. People are going to lose track of night. I wouldn't be surprised if we go through more than one moon. We'll probably have a trio of wobbles, meaning you may see the sun in the sky likely at 10 o'clock one day, at the 10 o'clock position. But within about a 30-minute period, the sun may go all the way to a 2 o'clock position and back to that 10 o'clock position. All of this happening within a half hour.
What?
Like
Wait,
so I wouldn't be
are
surprised.
you serious? Are you serious?
And you're looking at not just one time, but multiple times. We're going to see the sun out of position. Also in the nighttime, we will likely see at the nighttime the Earth doing more wobbles, right, to where we see the moon. And then, of course, everybody sees the sun. It'll light up like it's daytime. Then quickly go back to the moon. Now, the only thing that's going to hold us together is the sheer force of this of the gravitational element, I'm going to call it. And so we're in a pretty good sphere, Earth is, that will hold us to the ground. But we will see the heavens start to alter like that. But we will have no warning. Once this really hits that peak point, it'll go from a day just like today to horrific, to horrible, right? And as far as a warning is concerned, well, everybody's looking for warning and trying to find these big indicators. They're not going to get the big indicators. They just won't get them. It's going to happen too quick. It'll always, in every single observed system, it's always shocking to see when two of these stars get together, because the speed is just incredible. That means if even an amateur astronomer saw it in a telescope, it was a small little tiny, purplish red dot, right? Within hours, it would overtake everything. Once you see it, it's too late.
That's a great scripture.
Nobody can prepare that fast.
That's a great scripture somebody just reminded us of, and I appreciate that in the chat room. Haggai chapter 2, verse 6 and 7 says, "And thus saith the Lord of hosts, yet once in a little while, and I will shake the heavens, and the earth, and the sea, and the dry land. And I will shake all nations, and the desire of all nations shall come. And I will fill this house with glory, saith the Lord of hosts. The silver is mine, the gold is mine, saith the Lord of hosts. And the glory of this latter house shall be greater than the former, and saith the Lord of hosts, and in this place will I give peace, saith the Lord of hosts." He's saying, I will shake the heavens. Now, also in the same chapter in verse 21, again he says, I will shake the heavens and the earth. So
Right.
when you said that the sun will literally go back, basically, are we saying the sun is moving out of place, or is the earth
No,
moving
the
out of
earth.
place? Okay.
The earth will be.
Yeah.
The earth is going to be dislodged. It is a known fact that the earth is going to lose its orbit.
Wow.
It's going to be temporarily jostled quite a bit, but more than once, because every single time, when these things get close, the forces they're just unbelievable. And nobody living alive right now, not even in distant history, can we read about that unless we really, really dig. And then you find small indicators, and I can almost guarantee they didn't get everything, right? And even the Bible confirms a very shocking thing of just how little of a warning people will get. Now, I know people have read Matthew 38 through 41 with a mindset, right? A lot of people get happy reading that, saying, yes, we're out of here. But if everybody would read that, and then keep in mind that people are not going to get a warning, because when the Lord said, like in the days of Noah, right? Especially in 39, he says, and knew not until the flood came and took them all away. So shall the coming of the Son of Man be. Well, the coming of the Son of Man, he comes at the same time all this stuff starts breaking loose.
Yes, he does.
And then you read after that, he gives an example. He said, then shall two be in the field, one will be taken, the other left. So there's people weren't prepared for that.
No.
They were not prepared. And the one thing that we do see is the abomination of desolation, which brings us back to Israel, right?
Okay, yes.
And the news is trying not to cover news about Israel, but I believe that's why Christians will know and non-Christians won't care, is because Christians care about the state of Israel.
Amen.
Non-Christians could care less, but we're watching everything very closely. As far as some big, obvious sign, I honestly believe God is giving them every single day. It's just not for the world to notice.
Well, they can't. They're blinded. And until you come to Christ, you really can't see. But like you said, the Christians, we keep our eyes open. We're not the children of the night, but we're the children of the light. And you know, our eyes are open and we see things. And so we pick up on it, and God's showing us. And let's talk about Israel. Because do you see... Ron DeSantis was there. You know, he met with Netanyahu. Of course, Biden refused to meet with Netanyahu. It's very interesting. Do you see I know Ron DeSantis is doing things for his own political career, obviously, but at the same time, though, he has always been pro-Israel. So is Trump pro-Israel. Is Israel in danger right now with the current administration?
Well, they're in danger, period. Here's one of my biggest issues is this, Pastor Paul.
Okay.
It's because things will continue for at least, another month. I fear it's going to be too late.
Another month?
It's going to be too late.
Wait.
Yeah,
whoa.
It's going to be too late.
Okay, now, last week you said we may hear the rumble, the rumors of war. The war drums, the beating of war.
That's right.
Can you expound on that a little bit?
Well, you had that meeting with Turkey, Russia, Syria, and Iran.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
You have the declarations of the Middle East. You have a new formation started by Jordan and Saudi Arabia dealing with the Islamic kingdoms, right? Yeah. You have radical groups that have been formed. I say radical, they're actually religious groups that are really they're taking prophecy seriously now. Not like ISIS, not like these other guys.
Right.
But they are actually identifying things that bring us very close to the time in their case of the Mahdi, right? That character, the Mahdi. Well, there are other things that are happening because Germany and the Vatican have also been looking for indicators of the Mahdi, right? I know people don't know this, but the Vatican covers all of Islamic prophecy very closely. They do that.
Wow.
They do it with Christianity. They do it with Islam
Yeah.
also, because they know both have this single root, but they also identified things in the world that people don't know of, and so they have very good indicators. For example, well, everybody's looking for UFOs and things like that, right? The Vatican understands the origin of the other life forms that are here on Earth and parts of the spiritual realm. One example of parts of the spiritual realm, Pastor Paul, the Earth within itself likely was some sort of angelic place before humanity ever got here, right? Before we were here, this place was kind of overrun, right?
Okay.
And God did away with. There was a great destruction, did away with it. They know that because as they dig deeper, one of two things are true. When you go 300 feet below a pyramid, right, and you start finding script that nobody can write, that nobody can understand, that
Yeah.
nobody can etch. You can. We're not talking something caved into stone.
Right.
No, it's gold writing within crystals. Who can do that? So something else was going on here.
Whoa.
And when they're digging up
gold
stuff
writing
like this,
on
right?
crystals.
Within crystal, not outside, inside the crystal.
Oh.
Gold writing inside the crystal.
They found that stuff underneath the pyramids.
It's about 300 feet underneath the pyramid, which is why Egypt does not want anybody else. They're doing their best to shut off everything save for a couple groups, right? Because if they start showing that stuff, lots of individuals want to take that to museums. They can't do
Absolutely.
that because if people saw that, it would just uproot history and everything else, right? They couldn't push the lie of history like they do right now.
Right.
And people, if people began to doubt civilian history, they would go right to the Bible or right to some other religious book to try and find what was real. That's all one need to do is disprove public history, right? Because let's go ahead and face it. Not one of us was back in historic times, so we don't know. We know it by the word of others. But yes, they're finding in California, for example, in the ocean, there were two doors that they found in a like a mound, but these doors had this green layer over them. Well, that green layer, they put one of those shark tabs through and it went right through and came back out. The problem was that this little mound was very thin. You could see on the opposite side. So it's still down there today. Nobody can get to it because all your equipment will fail. Everything will start failing. The only way to get down there is with some sort of retainer rope, right? This is in California.
Yeah.
In the Grand Canyon, same thing. In several canyons, there are places that if you walk in there, you're going to lose track of all time, everything. You can't get out. You'll die. You'll stay there. You'll be trapped or you'll vanish like everybody else did. And there are a lot of folks in government, a lot of folks in the Vatican, a lot of folks in everywhere. They believe there is a system, almost like a transport system in these places where you go through one spot, come out the other. Now that would seem, just outlandish, right? But without going into any detail, that's not outlandish. It's just one other element of the earth we have little to no understanding of, and that the public certainly has little to no knowledge of. And unfortunately, when they start telling these stories and people come forward, they're scoffed at and laughed at because they need money. The Pentagon needs money, for example, for their UFO searches, right? They have to cover up for the $10 billion that they throw away every single quarter in the black budget. It's gone up a bit. There's trillions of dollars goes there. It goes into thin air as far as we know. There's a lot they have to cover up for. So they have to keep the UFO thing going, right? They cover up our craft. They cover up the other two space stations. They cover up quite a few things. And but it won't be covered for long. The Earth is changing at a rate that nobody really expected, except for the Navy a long time ago. And so we're hitting that time now where there are people who used to have money to hold these things back. They're dying out. They're almost dead, right? So there will be a time where people come out not with a story. They're not coming out with a story. They're not coming out with a photograph. They're not coming out with that stuff. They're going to actually demonstrate exactly what has been found, right? But by then it's going to be too late, because if you can see right now, they have almost destroyed part of that faith anchor line that the outside world has. An example of that is this. Have you noticed that people are gullible out there in the public area, right?
Right.
Everybody knows somebody who believes in the politics of somebody who's clearly, of people who are clearly destroying the U.S., right? And then you ask yourself, why do these people believe in that? Well, that is not the issue that they actually believe in it and are gullible. It's that the Lord is actually starting to open our eyes. The world almost maintains its stupidity, you could say. But the Christians are beginning to see that stupidity. And they're saying, well, what in the world is this? And the world is getting, it's getting worse in the world, because you have people like that who believe in just about everything. They're going to start bringing lots of things forward, right?
Yep.
But by that time, Pastor Paul, so many people will be believing in so many different things, and you better believe ETs, friendly ETs, are going to be part of it. They spend a lot of money to keep the friendly ET story going, right?
Yeah,
so that
and let's talk about this. Let's talk about it. The friendly ETs and the not so friendly ETs. So the friendly ETs. So they're going to keep this UFO disclosure narrative going. And use it to their advantage. Is that correct? And they're going to uncover some things for us to try to help us along here. Do you think so?
Well, they're going to have a demonstration. Uncovering something will just cause. What happens is that story dies out, right? They showed more in the last year than they've ever shown before. And people right now are saying, so what? Right? They're saying, okay, so we saw a picture, big deal, right? So they need more than that. So if you look carefully, they're cultivating people to see something they've never seen before, right? Okay. They're actually, they before they do anything, before things like 9/11 happened, I'm not a conspiracy theorist on that level, but hear me out. Before 9/11 happened, before we went into Iraq again, before anything happens, they always gauge the people to see how they're going to respond. If their response is going to be without turning on the government, they'll show people, they'll do something. Now that goes for nefarious purposes or not, because let's go ahead and face it, sometimes they have to get the people motivated behind causes. And the best way to do that is through death. Okay. So with this UFO subject though, right? These folks actually have an office in the Pentagon who won't answer any questions. In fact, one of the maintaining stories that take the fire out of the story momentarily is to say, well, we're just seeing our stuff. It's probably our stuff or Chinese things or something like that, right? And when they started that office, what did we see? Balloons, correct?
Yep,
we saw balloons.
That's correct. That's correct.
So somebody let them fly right over here, because in truth, there have been balloons before, and they have been knocked out, and nobody ever knew about it, because you don't tell the people you just knocked out a foreign balloon. You don't tell people everything like that.
No.
But they did this time, which is disturbing. Anyway, so people believe that. They're going to start believing, okay, somehow China and Russia and some other folks, they have advanced technology, and we do too. We can't show anybody. And when people least expect it, something is going to happen that's horrific. Death will have to be involved. That's the only thing that polarizes people behind such a radical call. And that radical call is coming. And the reason for that radical call is all governments have lost faith. The people don't have faith in government.
No, they don't, because there's so much corruption and
that's right. They don't have faith. It doesn't matter where you go. They don't have faith in Israel. They don't have faith in no government.
No government. That's right.
So what we're about to see is something that will galvanize people.
All right.
Right?
Now,
to depend on the government again. Is
that sort of what Wernher von Braun, Wernher von Braun, we brought him over here through Operation Paperclip at the end of World War II. He helped put together NASA. I mean, he made the first rocket ship, basically. And he said that there was three things that was going to take place to bring the world under a one world collaboration, basically. He said, number one, there was going to be the Cold War, and there was going to be the threat of Russia. Number two, there was going to be a major attack and a terroristic attack upon the planet.
Right.
And number 3, there would be a alien invasion. And that the third one
Right.
is the one that would bring the world to its knees to follow a one world leader. We've
Right.
had the first 2. I mean, he said this in 1960. So is that the playbook? You think was he reading out of the playbook?
Yeah, well, it's part of it. It actually is, but no one cares. It's so funny to me that exactly what it was. Check this out. So we had the terrorist,
Okay.
right?
Yes.
But that feeling, right, to galvanize people behind the cause of government, it failed. Do you know why? Media.
Right.
The unexpected nail in the coffin on that was media.
Yeah.
You had these independent media personnel who were not in league with whoever was calling the shots. So that didn't work, right? That didn't work.
Yes.
Then they tried to go to they were supposed to have the meteorite issue. Now, keep in mind, all of this is based on very real events,
Yes.
right? Very real events. It just didn't work out. So they had the meteorites, right? And through Facebook and through all these other social media platforms, they gained the heart and the minds of the people to see how people would respond. People didn't even care.
No.
They didn't care. Meteorite explodes over Russia. People said, wow, where'd it come from? Is there any more? Nope, let's go to the next story. So they didn't care.
That's right.
And in every single case, people, for some reason, after everything happens, people start to inspect the government, right?
Right.
They didn't want that. So now what's happening now is they've got everybody. They got everybody going in the direction they want. All this presidential stuff, I hate to just take the air out of the, momentum here. And nobody has to believe me, but all this presidential stuff has gained the public's attention just like they needed to gain the public's attention. If anybody is familiar with the 2 people who heard von Braun's small dissertation about this futuristic, the stuff that they were following, right? Because he understands what the power center is, right? He understands that power center. They were the ones that brought him over here and said, don't touch him. Because he would have got killed.
Oh, right? He would have been dead. He was a dead man. Exactly.
Right. But he didn't. So he understands that. He is the one that understands the role of Disney, of all people. He understands.
Yes.
Disney has an incredible role for the world.
He was close friends with Walt Disney. Yes, that's true.
But watch this, though. Walt Disney is very important for the world. And if you don't believe me, watch what happens to anybody. Without mentioning names, I'm telling you something. Anybody who crosses the line with Disney is going to pay for it.
Wow. I'm going to watch that close.
Pure and simple.
Yep.
They're going to pay for it, period.
Yep.
They're going to pay for it. So anyway, they're important, Pastor Paul, because they form how people see things when they're young, right?
Right.
People are all excited behind these movies and animations they make. Well, that cultivates an entire generation into normalcy. They make everything normal. Right now, look how much is normal. That's still an abomination to the Most High. Things in this world are normal. It's normal for you to go change male to female, female to male. That's normal. Right? But that we know where that stands.
No.
It's normal to have a gay church, right? That's normal. Or those type things. Even the churches of nudity they're having in America. That's normal. Right? Nobody cares.
They have made all of these things to become normal. And
that's right.
And actually, what they consider a threat to society is those of us who would say that's not normal. Okay, who would say, "Whoa, that's a sin, guys. It's wrong."
That's right.
Right.
That's right. And there's a prophecy behind that. When kids become the bosses of their homes, right? That's a prophecy that the end will come in that generation.
Yep.
That's an actual prophecy.
Wow.
That's prophecy written down about a whole bunch of times. And now we're not talking about by Buddhists, by those who read the Vedic text. No, we're talking about those who were biblical patriarchs and things like they said that. Because, and we're right there at that time now, but we also happen to be at a time where people seek to govern themselves. Right? Yeah. One of the prophecies, Pastor Paul, said that people not qualified to govern will govern.
Yeah, that's definitely going on.
There you go.
We got so many people.
In my humble opinion, I've never seen anything like it. Right?
Right.
I have nothing. Listen, guys, I have nothing against anybody who would ever seek office or sit in the office of the presidency. I would never want to do that.
Right.
I don't want to do that. So my hat's off to them. The Lord said, pray for your leaders. That's exactly what I do. But we all know that if we no longer have people who are presidential material. And what I mean by that, people who are really concerned about the country, who can really coordinate with other folks in Congress and with the Pentagon. We don't have people like that. What we have is a bunch of, it looks like a bunch of characters from a sitcom. That's exactly what it looks like.
It really does.
I mean, they
pathetic.
bicker, they fight on the news. And if you really think about it, while people are thinking something will get done, let me go ahead and spill your coffee. Nothing will ever be done. Nothing.
No.
And nothing has been done. And this, when Reagan talked about the New World Order that everybody scoffed, they don't understand that he was reading from part of a library that exists right now that they never stopped working on, that's already in place. Why is it in place? Because everybody is engaged in political warfare. They've taken their eyes off everything else, and now they're on political warfare. So we're a lot further along than what is initially perceived, right? If people would back up, not have a favorite candidate, not have any favorites of anything, learn the job that the men and women are supposed to be doing, you'll quickly find nobody should be there.
I agree with that. There's so many unqualified people that are sitting in positions. It's unbelievable. I've heard craziest things. I've heard people say. I saw a congressman one time say, "Is it true that we're worried that the island of Hawaii might just flip upside down if we get too many people on one side?" I heard a guy say that.
They're just not qualified.
And I said to myself, "Is that guy actually in the Congress?" But that's just one example.
And more.
We've seen, and we could name. I don't want to name names. You're right. There are so many on both sides of the aisle that are just absolutely space cadets, and why they're there, I don't know.
They're good at starting fights, right?
Yeah, they're great.
Think of what they've done through them alone, without anything else happening. Through their stuff alone, they were the effective element of separating families. Think about that.
Yeah.
They caused the sons to hate their dads, and the dads to hate the sons, and the daughters to turn against the mothers, and all sorts of stuff. When Trump was elected, when Obama was elected, when Biden was elected, homes broke up. So we have a process that's ongoing that these experts, these people that know the pulse of people, are reading very well. One person I see in the way, and he speaks very cryptically, is Elon Musk.
Yeah.
Sometimes when he's talking about AI, he's not talking about AI. He's talking about something else. But he'll mention AI because everybody gravitates towards that conversation.
Right.
But if you listen to him carefully, he's always saying what they're doing and what they're about to do is destroying us. And he continues to have stories that points right to this summer. It says, or this fall. And he'll say, hey, this year coming up, these months coming up are going to be do or die months. Now, we have 2024 right around the corner. And I can tell you right now, something is going to happen in politics. Everybody wanted this to happen. They thought it was going to happen with Obama. They thought it was going to happen with Trump. They thought it was going to happen with Clinton. It didn't, right? It's going to happen with Biden. There's something that will happen with Biden that everybody knew about in 2012, 2013. In fact, half the stuff people talk about, 2012 or 2011, 12, and 13, that's what they should talk about now, because we're under the umbrella of those prophetic things now. So back to this UFO topic, Pascal, They have already accomplished causing people to be deaf and dumb, right? They have.
Yep.
And people trust the news media so much. How do you gauge? I don't want to offend anybody, but how would you gauge people to see what they're watching? You could fire somebody.
Yeah.
Now watch and see. Tucker Carlson.
Yeah.
Right? Is a very valuable person.
Sure.
So he's not gone anywhere. He's not gone anywhere.
Right.
Everybody's going to see him again. He's not gone anywhere. Sometimes how they gauge things, right? And I'm not saying something that's a theory. I'm not saying, no, this is something they do. Okay. If they have to turn a corporation upside down, right? And normally it's a corporation who does these things. Don't for one moment think it's the government. The government is a mouthpiece for very high-level corporations. That's what's happening right now. They're a mouthpiece for corporations. And then you have the other side of the government that actually calls the shots. But if you think about something, they fire Tucker Carlson in a strategic move, not actually for the lawsuit, that $700 billion lawsuit.
No.
But they have to make sure that they protect their assets in a certain way. Now, watch and see that they're going to follow suit with the rest to protect them. It looks like a terrible deal, doesn't it?
Yeah, everybody's upset about it. Right.
That was a protective move because Tucker has most of the ears of the Republican base.
Yeah,
they listen to him.
Yes, he does.
So he can actually direct the masses. They already know that you don't fire a person that can direct the masses. You don't do that. You promote a person like that and put him in operational status.
Right.
And so he'll be fine. He's going to be okay.
So you're saying there's another role for him coming?
Look at Don Lemon. Look at Don Lemon.
Okay, Don Lemon. Okay.
I don't gravitate towards anything in that.
He didn't have very good ratings. He had the worst ratings. It kind of made sense why they fired him if you looked at it that way. But
he plants ideas.
Yeah.
See, this is it. They reach people. That's the thing. They reach people.
Yeah.
Right. Not necessarily watching those shows, but they on YouTube, with social media, the conversation about Don Lemon and things and that, and the conversation about Tucker and this and that was very high. Right. And when you look at those back numbers, anything they say will affect the people. Right. They're going to affect the people for or against whatever they're talking about. Right. So they pop up again, like the other guy that got fired from CNN. He's getting paid twice as much now.
Yeah.
Right. In fact, most of them who got fired from those places are getting paid twice as much. So that they're doing, what I'm saying is that they're doing something. They're moving people right along. And every time people believe what they see on television, which, by the way, is the only thing you can believe, because unless you can go there yourself, you won't know it. But every time people act on that, they're acting in a way that actually supports hiding everything that's being done. As far as the system passed, Paul, it's already changed. It's already changed.
It has.
A new world order has happened. It's just that people can't see it yet.
So that's where I started this broadcast with, when I asked the question, are the four horsemen arrived? And with the white horse being the one that's the beast kingdom or the new world order, establishing it.
Pastor, now you know I have I'm the guy from the bushes, so my views don't exactly they don't really line up with everybody else's sometimes, but listen, I understand.
So are you saying the new world order's already arrived? It's already here?
Yeah, it's already here.
Okay.
It's already, well, think about it. Anything people want has not happened.
Yeah.
But everything the new world order boasted about since the 80s has taken place.
Yes, it has. Everything
it's been happening. Despite what people vote for, despite what's been done. When people vote for one person, if they want somebody else in there, it doesn't matter what the people do. It matters who they want in power. They're going to put them in there, right?
Yep.
And nobody can do anything about it. Plus, who of us can go and validate what's happening on the computers? Not one of us. I do not trust computers for voting.
No.
I do not. That should be a 100% manual thing, never by computers.
Never. Why do it? We did it for years. We did it for years without it. It was very accurate. We could get it. We usually could have an answer by midnight. Now we get all these computers and we can't. It's 17 days, 21 days. Nobody knows, and hidden ballots and stuff. Look,
even if they weren't hidden, you can't trust the numbers.
You can't trust the numbers. Nobody can trust the numbers now.
No,
no
because
way.
I can't go and say, I wonder what Pastor Paul voted for. I can't do that. Nobody else can do that after me. It's in a computer. Nobody knows.
No one
Even
knows.
the experts don't know. Only the computer knows. So you can't trust that. And because you can't. And then Trump told everybody. He sat there and told everybody. And nobody listened. You know what he said?
He told everybody for months.
Doesn't matter how many people voted for who. It matters what they picked. It matters what the electorate picked. Yeah. Doesn't matter how many people voted. The popular vote does not matter.
Yeah.
He told everybody. Yeah. And how many people listened?
Nobody.
There you go.
So now, if let's take a look at this. If we have a beast kingdom, we have this new world order already in position, and a lot of things are just being played out in front of us like a sitcom. We also have pandemics. We have diseases. We have an economy. Right now, with the dollar's instability. Let's talk about this Marburg and these other. What about this in Sudan? Okay, so there's this biolab in Sudan that gets taken over by one of I think it's the paramilitary guys in this coup or this civil war thing. What's in this lab? Are we getting ready to see something get released, or is this a false flag for?
No, well, all of it. You could say the term false flag.
All right.
I kind of shy away from that.
All
Here's
right, let's
why.
just use this question. Are we getting ready to see a release of something in the world now? Another pandemic?
Not just something, right?
Okay.
Now, remember, COVID-19 established a very difficult census to establish.
Okay.
Right? It did. From the origin of COVID-19 to everything, no matter what people found out, what they said, they still passed laws concerning COVID-19. The biggest thing about COVID-19 was to get proper accountability. When they said clear the streets, stay at home, they were fine-tuning things like you wouldn't believe, right? I mean, they were really, for example, anybody ever heard of hyperspectral sensors on satellites? Anybody ever hear that? Well, it's very difficult to see from space to the ground because of light, because of the green-blue band, all this good stuff in between. Very difficult. In order to fine-tune the instruments, you have to have a lot of people indoors, right?
Okay.
Because in hyperspectral sensors, everything has a fingerprint. When they look through your ceiling, right down through your ceiling, they're not looking with visible light that normal people look at. They're looking at not only light, but they're looking at light waves and sound waves. A computer will assemble all of that, right? So it's almost like this. If you look out of your glasses, you see the world through your glasses. Whatever the glasses filter, obviously you don't see, right?
Right.
Well, that hyperspectral sensors, the ones they have now are a bit different. They take AI has to operate them. A program will be just too large and it changes too much. So what they do is they take a lot of optical data points from one object, and they measure the sound feedback, light feedback, all these different types of feedback. AI assembles that by formulas, an image. It will assemble an image, right? So with imagery assemblage, you can see something that's without AI, you can only see an object that was possibly about 6 centimeters, right? You could barely make it out. But with hyperspectral sensors, they can see how many pores are in the newspaper on the ground.
Unbelievable.
So it gives them absolute. Now, mind you, they're looking through ceilings. They need to be able to see everything topside, right? Because every time they see something topside, that's validation for the information they collect down here. There's a living map.
I understand.
Right? It's a living map. Everybody's on that living map, and everything is being identified. And when everybody stayed home, they fine-tuned everything. Plus, they got to finally push accountability. That's why people have been so bothered with this census stuff. If you don't answer a census,
they get
who
upset.
knows who's going to show up to your door to get you to comply, because they need that data point. So that accountability with this virus, there are lots of motives for things like that. You don't get a virus that escapes from a lab in China and comes right over to the USA after people have talked about it. You don't do that. So contrived? Sure. Right? Now, and that goes with one of the horses, Pastor Paul.
Okay.
Because this is not the first time. This stuff has been happening for a long time. In fact, if you go through all the horses, the white horse, for example, right? The white horse is, I know what people say it is, but when I take a look at this white horse, he that sat on him had a bow, no arrow, and a crown was given unto him. And he went forth conquering and to conquer. Right. So he has a crown and a bow. You know what that looks like to me? Or a mindset, right?
Okay.
Of importance. That's the crown, right?
Yeah.
Pride. To go out pridefully, to talk or have a message or have a posture of overtaking everybody else. Kingdom against kingdom, nation against nation.
It's not by force.
Type of thing.
It's not by force.
And that's
You're
been
exactly
happening.
right.
It is isn't that the posture of kings now, to sit up and take over everybody else? And then the other horse, the second seal, what was the second seal? That was when
red.
peace was taken from the earth.
Yeah, it was red. Yeah.
Right. And then it only says, and they should kill one another. That's been happening.
It's been
He had a
going
great
on.
sword.
Yeah.
Okay, so people have had a desire to overtake everybody for a long time. When you're born in the middle of a system, it's not going to be a system. It's going to be home, right?
Right.
How would a future generation? It's not going to get that far, I don't believe. How would they even know if they were in Revelation? They wouldn't.
No.
They wouldn't. Even in Revelation, it shows they don't know they're in Revelation. They're just following the beast system. The other horse, when it says when he had opened the third seal, the beast came. Now this
The
one's
black
kind of
horse.
controversial.
Yeah.
Right, the black horse. And with him, it said it was a voice, and he said, a measure of wheat for a penny, and 3 measures of barley for a penny, and see that thou hurt not the oil and the wine.
Right.
Now, I know everybody has their idea, but I'm the guest on the show, so I'm controversial. And you guys, I run too fast to beat me up. So I'm going to go ahead and say it. Here's our belief.
Okay.
When it says, a measure of wheat for a penny and 3 measures of barley for a penny, 3 measures of barley, while everybody else weighs this out, I can see the balances. Food is being weighed to sell with money, a money standard. So a lot of people look at a type of collapse, but I'll never discount it says don't hurt the oil and the wine.
Right.
Well, nobody was talking about hurting anything, right? So why would it say hurt not the oil and the wine, right? The oil, in my humble opinion, the oil, that would be something that it was in a parable what the virgins had, right?
Right, the oil.
The 5 wise, 5 foolish.
Yep.
But the oil that people gain keeps their flame lit. And if that's the case, that's spiritual experience.
Right.
And one who has spiritual experience, if anything comes against that person because they have experience with deliverance and things like that, they're going to keep their faith. Right? The wine, nothing has hurt the gospel. Isn't that funny? Nothing. All these attempts to put the gospel down, nothing has hurt the gospel.
No, it can't defeat the gospel.
And I remember when Jesus said you can't put old wine in new wineskins.
Right.
You can't mix the two. You know. So that was that. But with the balances, we had to have a money standard. This is the first time that the world has had a money standard. Nobody's trading goats and geese and fish. They're not trading that for something, right? No. You don't go to your neighbor and say, I'll give you this goat if you build my fence. You don't do that. No. You have to do that with money. If you go to a store to buy food, you have to use money. You can't barter or bargain with anything other than money. So I see a standard being created, right? And if that is the case, then we've been living under that standard for a long time. One of the other things, when Jesus said in Revelation, when he was identified as being the one talking to John, he said, the time is at hand. The time's at hand. So anyway, that's that one.
That's really good. That's really good. I mean, because yes, the gospel, no matter what's come against it, it's standing. And you can't. The church, the gates of hell can't prevail against the church. It will be here. Absolutely.
Right. Then of course the 4th seal.
Yes.
The 4th seal with a 4th part of the earth. They were given power over a 4th part of the earth to kill with the sword, with hunger, with death, with the beasts of the earth. A 4th part of the earth, that's a pretty big chunk of the earth.
That's a lot.
Well, I looked at something, Pastor Paul. Did you know that 29% of the earth is land? Okay. We don't occupy waters, we occupy land.
Right.
29% of the earth is land. So given that 29%, we're always traveling all over the place. That's our place of occupation. That's almost right on. So those who live on the land, we always have died in this way, haven't we? Death is rampant these days, especially these days.
Yeah.
I mean, it really shows us how primitive we are. We always call ourselves advanced.
But we're really very primitive.
Well, here's one big thing, Pastor. Are you ready? Pharmaceuticals make a lot of money, don't they?
Yes.
Make a lot of money.
A ton.
Why? Because everybody's taking pills.
Yes.
Why is everybody taking pills? Because they want the money. Right? They don't want to heal anybody. They want the money.
Yeah, they don't want
to make you feel
say,
comfortable, and then they'll snatch it.
The doctor never says, here's a prescription. This will cure you. No,
that's right.
It's just take this, and you're going to be on this now for the rest of your life. Okay, so
isn't that primitive?
It's very primitive. Keep coming back to the witch doctor. You got to keep coming back to the guy. Okay.
So anyway, they're dying on all this. So remember now, 29% of the earth is, surface of it is land. And it specifically said, and power was given unto him over a 4th part of the earth to kill with the sword.
Yep.
Not a 4th part of the people. It said a 4th part of the earth. Well, it turns out that a 4th part of the earth is land. So they were given power over land to have people kill one another.
That's horrible.
Right?
Yeah.
It never gave when I looked at that closely, it never gave a number of how many people would perish.
No, it doesn't.
That's not what it did.
No, it doesn't.
It just gave a portion of the earth was given to them that people would die from animals and disease and this and the other.
Right.
And there we have it. Right. There we
Amen.
have it. So, and then of course the 5th seal. I believe that's one of those ongoing seals. I really do.
Yeah.
But that's coming to because they were under the altar. They were slain for the word of God.
Yep.
And
That's ongoing.
Right, but they were told to wait a little season until their fellow servants and their brethren should be killed as they were,
Yep.
should be fulfilled,
Yep.
which I find incredible, because that means a martyr, somebody who dies for the word of God. There's only so many of them, number one. And I personally believe that because God showed Paul and all these men how they were going to die because they were martyrs, God also does that today. I don't know about anybody else, but I know a couple of people who are they're very faithful, and they've had dreams that were not so good concerning themselves, dealing with, things, but they're not afraid.
Yeah.
Even in my case, the Lord kind of showed me I was going to go downhill. That doesn't deter me, right? I expect that. So
martyrs,
I think it's ongoing.
It's very important that people understand that there's more martyrs to come. There's more to come.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just a fact. We don't like
and
it.
It's a certain number. I guess it's a big thing. So when people start, because right now people are dying for Christianity, not big, large numbers though, but when this starts to happen, Pastor Paul, we've hit it, and that's the sixth seal is going to crack wide open.
Yeah, and then we know,
and that's the seal nobody can deny.
Nobody can deny that one. Here's a question for you tonight, Mike. We talked about this earlier. The U.S.-Russian subs in the Atlantic are more active than we've seen them in years. This was
Yeah, they are.
Yeah, can you tell us a little bit about this? I mean, I understand that, and they're in the Atlantic. They're within striking distance of our shores.
Yeah, they remember the shadows we discussed.
Yeah,
that the U.S. cannot, they can't really find the shadows, and so not only do we have underwater Russian and Chinese vessels, under the water, but we also have autonomous torpedoes that can stay aloft or on mission for years until they find their target.
Wow.
So hypothetically,
you mean they're already setting that? Wait. Torpedoes that are already stationary, autonomous, or they're
already autonomous. They have been, yes, they're just
floating
have
around?
actually been tracked. Yes, they never stop moving. They've actually been tracked.
Okay.
And they've lost them quick. I know it seems impossible, but they have a new type of, not so much propulsion, but let's just say a new type of nose skin for objects in the water. That water helps it go a bit faster than normal, right? So they have new methods of traveling under the water. And everybody should keep in mind this, that they're not going to allow nuclear propulsion in common airliners, right? Because if people found out, they would have a heart attack, everybody would be too afraid to fly. When you're dealing with the military, there's no civilian oversight for what the military uses for propulsion of things that will be in the waters, right? So we hear of nuclear subs, but you very seldom do you hear of nuclear propulsion, which can last for 25, 50 years at a time, which means those Putin is a masterful. His country they're masterful engineers.
They are
of underwater things. While everybody else was spending money on their economy and things like that, Putin was building up a navy that cannot be beat. That's my opinion, right? Because even our admirals have admitted that even China has more boats than we do, right?
Yep.
And that we failed.
And Russia has a better underwater technology than we have. And
That's right.
We've admitted that. We're admitting that.
They do.
And they have also
they can launch.
They have the hypersonic missile that not only can launch from land but from sea.
Yeah.
And we can't do anything with it. We don't have a defense mechanism. Australia
has issues with shadows. The U.S. has issues with shadows in all territories, right? Which makes starting to make Alaska a big problem.
Yeah.
And Putin is telling everybody that if you push too hard, we're not going to hesitate. He's very straightforward. And ironically, Putin, besides him going into the Ukraine saying, I'm not going to do anything, and he went in there anyway.
He did it anyway.
When it comes to drawing everybody else in the war, he's not lied yet, right?
No. So he's not leaving, is he? He's not leaving Ukraine.
No, he's got to get to Ukraine.
He's going to take it. Yeah, he won't stop.
Even though China's talking and everything else, China's had talks with Putin for probably a couple weeks straight.
Yeah.
And it's not really making a difference. And every time they do talk to him, Pascal, what does the USA do? There's somebody who finds out that we have forces on the ground. It doesn't matter what capacity these forces
Yep.
serve.
Yep.
But there are allied forces in Ukraine against Russia. Russia knows about it,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
The ocean tensions are heating up because now China is soon to be hit by something with the USA. Not militarily,
A sanction?
but they're going to have to save face.
Some kind of sanction? Some kind of a...
Well, it'll be a sanction would be a mild way to put it. But the U.S., both Democrats and Republicans are on board with this, and so they're going to be hit with something pretty significant. And when this happens, they're going to feel like they've been just totally degraded in front of the world. The USA leadership has a habit of they'll kind of befriend you to get back at you. And when this happens with China, who can sniff out, they can sniff out people's motivations. They're not going to be happy with this. As a contingency, this is a real reason why Turkey, Russia, Syria, Iran were in Moscow talking. They were talking with African military-based personnel around there too, so African forces are involved. They have been talking with some of the radical groups that nobody knows about yet to try and get them to be, drawn into this thing. So what they're doing, Pascal, is amassing a very large army in the Middle East. They also discuss the issue of Israel. I hate to tell people this, but they understand that Israel is the heart of the non-peace issue in the Middle East, which means they're going to push or force Israel to divide that land. This is going to be a forced thing.
Yeah, I know that's being talked about.
We're being pinched.
Forcibly.
They're going to do it forcibly. We're being pinched, right? The USA is internally. So we've already been tested to see what we could do. Now, it doesn't mean we're going to lose a war. That's not what it means. It just means that we're not going to get overly involved in that business with Israel.
We're gonna abandon Israel on this, aren't we? We're gonna.
Well, to a degree, we already have, really.
Yeah, I know.
We already have.
Very
They've
passive.
reached out to Israel last week. Reached out to Putin, right? They have other deals. They just don't talk about,
right.
But they have other things they're working on, and unfortunately, nobody is willing to help them until they actually part that land with for Palestinian people. And now that the Palestinians have stood up, and some of the Arabic Israelis have stood up saying, we're just going to walk away from your military, a big problem is coming. And they are seriously thinking about starting up a brand new force in Israel, a military force that does not include any Arabics or anybody who would step out like that. Can you imagine what would happen if all of a sudden all of these Israeli Arabic individuals who feel like they are the minority, who feel like they're disrespected and their culture is not looked at, if they walked out of the army?
That's a lot.
Can you imagine that?
That's a lot.
Now, why also would Jordan and Iran say they would receive them?
Yeah.
If they walked out, they could go to Jordan or Iran.
Yeah,
right?
then that makes Israel extremely vulnerable.
So Israel is about to put out policies about people who would be, put out of the state to talk to these other countries and say, don't let them in. Don't let those people in.
What about, how you always say Jordan, you can't ever trust Jordan either.
No.
What about this politician from Jordan that was over in the West Bank selling guns and gold, giving away gold? I mean,
Pastor, you cannot trust Jordan.
No.
Jordan is the intellectual center for Mecca, for Islam, and it really is. It coordinates all the material for the Islamic schools, Islamic learning, all those scriptures and everything. I don't trust Jordan, because if their faith is not towards our Savior, towards Christ Jesus of Nazareth, how in the world can they ever be friends with anybody? Because when it comes down to it, they're going to side with those who are Muslim, right?
Right.
And which isolates India. That really isolates India, which they're trying their best to be independent right now, because they face two fronts, the Middle East and China, right now.
Yep.
So they're going to have a coalition in less than a month in the Middle East. Now, with this coalition, it's grown quite a bit, Pascal. You're talking about a consolidation of forces.
Are you talking about the BRIC nations now? Are you saying India is going to make a coalition with Middle Eastern countries?
There'll be a coalition with Turkey, Russia, Syria, Iran on paper.
Yeah, they all met.
On paper. On paper. And Jordan, by the way, is going to be absorbed in this thing too. The only reason they didn't go is because they had agreed previously that if there had to be these dividing lines in the Middle East as part, I forgot what they called it. They gave it a very specific name, not like a New World Order, but something else. They
No,
gave
he
it a very
did.
specific name.
Yeah, these four
And
nations.
Pastor, they're going forward with it within a month's time. They're going to put this stuff forward.
Turkey,
Right?
Russia, Syria, and Iran. Guys, this
That's
is
right.
Ezekiel 38. That's what this is.
Mm.
This is Ezekiel 38. They're coming
We're
together.
close.
They just met.
Yes,
They're
they are.
forming. Yeah, this is what
Yes, they are.
the Bible calls it, a confederacy in
Yes,
Psalms
they are.
83, or a conspiracy or a confederacy. It's a conglomerate. It's
That's right.
you know, and
They all have
they're against Israel.
they all have indignation against the Holy Covenant.
Yeah.
They don't like and just in case nobody understands what that is, that's when that promise of Abraham, was given. They believe they're the rightful inheritors of Israel, that Israel itself has no business there. And they will wipe them because Iran now, during this meeting, Pastor Paul, they did equipment. They had some equipment checks, and they have war games coming up too. But they were actually practicing that command and control switch off, which is why we saw a lot of Iranian drones flying into the Ukraine. That was practice, right?
Okay, yeah, they did.
A lot of
them.
Iranian drones flew right into the Ukraine.
Yes, they did.
But now we have hypersonics, and they're just lying to their teeth about Iran. And somebody should come forward in an official capacity to brief people about the true story behind Iran, so people can stop believing in some fairy tale. Iran is a very deadly place to mess with, which is why no one in their right mind would just gather up their armies and run into Iran. Nobody's going to do that.
No.
And so now Syria, there's a declaration to get Syria rebuilt. Now that is huge because they can't do that. And when they're stopped from doing that, Israel is going to have to stop them. If Syria is rebuilt, Lebanon is going to be it's just not going to be good. Also, all these groups that were against Jerusalem, Pastor Paul, they're being recognized by China as official states, right?
Which,
so
that's another slap in Israel's face.
They're not following the USA anymore.
No.
The USA's plan for the world, in their eyes, is gone.
over.
So, and what that means, folks, is war. Because war begins when somebody's ideology is challenged by another's.
Yep. Yeah, China's taken the lead role of the world. They put the Iranians and the Saudi Arabians together and put a peace deal together. They did a deal with Russia. Now they're talking to other nations. They're ignoring what America's foreign policy is. We don't have anything. We're useless. At this point, we are useless on the world stage. And Israel is left out. China does not care what Israel thinks. And America is passively sitting by. And this is a recipe for a major confrontation.
It is.
At some point, the U.S. is going to say, what's going on here? And maybe you have a change of administrations or something's going to happen. And we're going to see the United States and China going head-to-head, and maybe U.S., China, Russia. Who knows? I mean, there is a six-trumpet war in the book of Revelation when 1/3 of the world dies. 1/3. 2.5
we're
billion.
going to have what people see right now is not how things are going to look in a very short time.
No.
This
fall,
earth is going to be empty. There's going to be a lot of emptiness here.
Yeah, I'm just keep thinking that somebody's going to pull the trigger. Something I'm just concerned. I've always said this. I'm very nervous about a tactical nuke or some type of detonation in a major European city, or even a U.S. city for that matter. That once it happens, yet no one will respond.
Like the UK or Germany, and I suspect they'll be first.
Yes, and no one will respond.
They'll be first.
Here's the thing. Can you imagine a detonation in Munich, Germany that kills 200,000 people, and there's no response by NATO because they can't?
No. And Pastor Paul, just like King Charles, everybody watch this. King Charles, he's going to make a move here very soon. It just seems like everything is forming this year, right before some things happening before the election that could mess everything up. But King Charles is about to make some changes. right? As his position is going to be concrete.
Yeah,
He's
this
going
summer.
to another
Yep.
scale of his powers.
Yep.
Please remember that this is another scale of his powers. This guy loves the dragon. He loves the dragon. Okay.
Oh, Lord.
And he will most certainly evoke his authority as soon as they solidify his power base, right?
That's
You're going to see
coming
a
up.
changeover of a lot of people. But I guarantee you this is going to bring an oppositional nuclear attack to the UK.
Wow.
Whether it be by terrorism or other means, because they have people waiting on the sidelines with France and the UK and Germany, just in case they start passing these policies, because they're the only ones right now. The UK is standing in the way, could stand in the way of everything that Russia, that Syria, Turkey are trying to do. They could stand in the way of all of it. They actually could.
Wow.
So when his position is really solidified, he's going to have a change of guard. He's quite demanding. It doesn't seem that way, but he's quite demanding, right? And when he wants something done, and given that power base, when he wants something done, it's going to happen. And so we're quickly moving towards a point. Somebody will most certainly try something. And of course, there are worse weapons than nuclear weapons,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
But we're going to find ourselves in a fix. I personally believe that everybody in America, everybody in the UK, all these people that are out there, civilians, should if they never prepared anything in their lives, in all seriousness, with no play, I mean, absolutely sober, they need to begin yesterday. They need to start. They need to have all their important papers first and foremost before the system changes. We're going to see a system change this year. Not next year, not the year after, this year. They are rushing everything, Pastor Paul. Everything is being
Everything's
rushed.
going to change.
Yes, everything
It's
is being
not
rushed.
gonna be good.
And so I pray people are ready, that they're sober about it and not living in fantasy land, right? This world is about to go through a few things, and people are going to be shuffled in certain areas of the world.
Yep.
But if you can be properly identified, you won't be lost like everybody else. That's a personal responsibility most people should take, and go ahead and get that done before it's almost impossible for them to get registered or get an ID or something like that. Please don't put that off, folks.
You got to be able to identify yourself.
Yep.
You're going to have to be able to show your papers, or you're going to be left out. No doubt about it. Mike, great show tonight. A lot of great information here, and really candid discussion. But Wes, this is what we needed. The 4 horsemen have arrived, folks, and we're moving. This thing is not slowing down. So appreciate it, Mike. What are we going to be talking about next week, Mike?
Well, we could be talking about some very big size hail.
Again? Even worse than what we've had?
Much worse.
All right. I'll be ready.
Much worse.
Oh, Lord. All right. Appreciate it, Mike, very much. We're so glad you come to be with us today.
It's always an honor, Pastor Paul. God bless you, brother.
God bless you.